Before we read tonight's prayer, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like this video. It helps more than you realize. And tonight, I hope you find something here that makes the night feel softer. There are parts of me I rarely speak about, parts I've tucked away so deeply I sometimes forget they exist until they rise in the quiet and remind me they were never really gone. Old wounds, silent hurts, the shame I've carried for years but never named aloud. They sit in the corners of my heart, hidden from the world, hidden even from myself. And yet, on nights like this, I feel them stir. They whisper in the silence, asking if they'll ever be seen, if they'll ever be healed. I've spent so much of my life pretending those places didn't matter, smiling when I wanted to cry, nodding when I wanted to scream, acting strong because I believed falling apart would make me unworthy. I thought hiding was safer, that if no one saw the cracks, they couldn't hurt me, but hiding has a cost. It keeps me distant, even from the love I long for most. It convinces me that my brokenness is something to be ashamed of instead of something that needs compassion. Tonight, I want to stop running from those parts. I want to invite them into the light, trembling, fragile, afraid as they are, and believe they can be met with love instead of rejection. I want to trust that even the pieces I hide are worthy of healing. I want to believe there is nothing in me too shattered to be made whole. There's a kind of relief that comes with telling the truth, even if only in a whisper, even if only to myself. Admitting that there are places in me still tender, still unhealed, doesn't make me weak. It makes me honest. And maybe honesty is where healing begins. For so long, I've been afraid that naming my pain would make it more real. But silence didn't make it disappear. It only made me feel more alone in it. Tonight, I want to do something different. I want to sit with these hidden pieces, the parts of me that ache, the memories I've tried to forget, the fears I've buried so deep I can barely find them anymore. I want to offer them gentleness instead of judgment. I want to believe they deserve kindness, not condemnation. I want to hold them the way I would hold a child, softly, patiently, without expecting them to be anything other than what they are. There's something powerful about imagining that love can reach even the places I've hidden away, the parts I've deemed unworthy, the parts I've labeled too broken. What if those are the very places love longs to touch first? What if healing doesn't begin with fixing what's wrong, but with embracing what's hurting? That thought feels almost impossible, and yet deep down it feels true. So I breathe. I let the quiet settle around me. I place my hand over my heart and whisper words I've never said to these hidden places. You are safe. You are seen. You are loved. At first, it feels awkward, foreign, but the longer I stay here, the more I sense something shifting. Not a dramatic miracle, but a quiet loosening, like a knot beginning to untangle. Maybe this is what healing really looks like. Slow, gentle, patient. A process of returning again and again to the parts of me I've long avoided and learning to love them back to life. Before the quiet settles fully, I want to acknowledge something I've ignored for a long time. The parts of me that I've hidden not just from the world, but from myself. These places inside me are layered, complicated. Some were shaped by words spoken carelessly years ago, others by moments I can barely remember, but still carry like echoes in my chest. They have names I rarely say aloud: shame, regret, loneliness, fear. They're the memories I push away in daylight, but cannot escape when night comes. I think about how much energy I've spent trying to stay strong, pretending that those hidden wounds don't exist, smiling when I felt like crying, saying I'm fine when I was anything but fine. And I wonder how many times I've missed the chance to truly heal because I was too afraid to be honest, because honesty felt risky, because admitting I was hurting felt like inviting rejection. But tonight, I want to do something braver. I want to sit in this quiet and name what's really there. Not for pity, not to dwell in pain, but to finally let those parts of me breathe. Because maybe what I've been hiding isn't something shameful. Maybe it's just something wounded, and wounded things don't need judgment. They need care. There's a strange relief in imagining that God already sees these parts of me, the ones I keep locked away, and doesn't turn away. That He doesn't love some polished version of me, but the real me, raw and unfinished. The me who still flinches at old memories. The me who still questions my worth. The me who still hasn't figured everything out. For so long, I thought love was for the parts of me that had it all together. The confident smiles, the tidy prayers, the brave front I put on for the world. But maybe love is most present in the places I think least deserve it. Maybe that's where healing begins. In the cracks, in the tears, in the quiet corners I've tried to forget. I let myself breathe slowly, feeling the weight I've been carrying settle in my chest, not heavier, just finally acknowledged. There's something sacred about admitting, even in silence, that I don't have to hide anymore. These parts of me, fragile as they are, have been waiting to be noticed, waiting to be held. And in this moment, I sense a quiet whisper in my soul. You are seen. You are loved. Even here. For years, I believed I had to choose between being loved and being honest. I thought if anyone knew the depth of my fears, the mess of my thoughts, the scars I carried, they would turn away. So I learned to curate myself, to present only what seemed acceptable, to share only the victories and hide the struggles. But love built on half-truths always left me lonely. No one could love the real me if I never let them see her. Tonight, I open the door a little wider. Not to everyone, but to God, to the one who already knows and isn't afraid of what He sees. The one who meets me in the quiet, who doesn't demand I clean myself up first. The one who whispers, bring it all, even the parts you wish didn't exist. I think about the memories I've buried, the moments I still flinch at, even years later, the words spoken over me that shaped how I see myself. The failures I can't seem to forgive. These are the places I've hidden deepest, convinced they were too ugly for light. But healing doesn't happen in the dark. Healing requires light, gentle, patient light that doesn't expose to shame, but to restore. So tonight, I bring them out. Not all at once. That would be too much. But one by one, as I'm ready, I whisper them softly, trusting that love can hold even this. And for the first time, I feel a flicker of hope that maybe these hidden places aren't beyond repair. The quiet around me shifts. It's not heavy anymore. It's tender, almost holy. I realize healing won't come from pretending I'm whole. It will come from letting myself be seen as I am. I sit quietly and realize how much I've resisted this process. For so long, I believed healing meant erasing the pain, the memories, the parts of me I didn't like. But the more I try to erase, the more those places seem to shout for attention. Maybe healing isn't erasing at all. Maybe it's learning to hold the parts I've ignored, to give them the compassion they've always needed. There are pieces of me that still carry the voices of the past. Words I heard as a child, moments when I felt unwanted, times I blamed myself for things I couldn't control. These echoes have shaped the way I see myself, convincing me I'm less than I am. Tonight, I name them one by one. Not to dwell, but to release. Not to justify what happened, but to acknowledge the truth and let it finally find rest. As I breathe, I imagine light touching each hidden corner. It's not harsh light. It's warm, soft, almost like morning sun breaking through a window after a long night. It doesn't demand I hurry. It doesn't shame me for the dust it reveals. It simply shows me what's there and offers hope that even the messiest places can be beautiful again. I whisper prayers I never thought I'd say. Heal this memory. Heal the regret I've carried for years. Heal the fear that keeps me bracing for pain even when I'm safe. My words aren't fancy. They're simple, almost childlike. But I think that's enough. Healing doesn't need perfection. It needs honesty. The more I pray this way, the more I sense a shift inside. Not a sudden cure, but a softening. The tight grip I've kept on my pain begins to loosen. I don't have to control it all. I don't have to fix it all tonight. I can trust the process. Trust that God's love is big enough for even the parts I've hidden from myself. By the time I close my eyes, I feel lighter. Not because every wound is gone, but because I finally stopped pretending I don't have them. I finally let them breathe. And in doing so, I open the door for healing to begin. Before we settle into this part of the prayer, I want to notice something I've been feeling, a quiet trembling inside me. It's not the kind of trembling that comes from fear alone, but from realizing I'm stepping into a place I've avoided for years. This prayer is asking me to turn toward the deepest, most hidden pieces of my soul. The ones I've kept locked away even from myself. There's courage in simply naming that. There's courage in staying present here. For so long, I believed I could move forward without facing these parts. I told myself time would heal them, that if I just kept busy enough, they would fade into the background. But time alone doesn't heal what we refuse to acknowledge. Silence doesn't soothe what still bleeds in the dark. Tonight, I choose something harder and holier. I choose to look with honesty and love at what I've buried. I imagine opening an old door in my heart, one that's creaked shut for years. Behind it are memories I'd rather forget, feelings I've tried to outrun, questions I still don't know how to answer. Part of me wants to slam the door shut again, but another part, the part that longs for freedom, knows healing can only come when I let the light in. So I whisper softly, come into these hidden places. Meet me where I'm most afraid. Touch the wounds I've covered up, and show me they can be made whole. The words feel risky, but they also feel like the truest prayer I've ever prayed. I don't want to keep living divided from myself. I don't want to keep hiding pieces of who I am. I want to be known fully and loved fully, even here. I let myself sit with this image, that old door in my heart, swinging open, and I notice what's inside. There are boxes stacked high, labeled with words I wish I'd forgotten. Failure, rejection, shame, regret. Some are small, almost weightless now. Others feel impossibly heavy, packed so tightly that I can hardly imagine what's inside without bracing myself. For years I've walked past these boxes, pretending they weren't there, pretending they didn't matter. But I see now that they've been shaping my life from the shadows. Every time I've doubted my worth, every time I've flinched at kindness, every time I've sabotaged love because I didn't believe I deserved it, it's because of these hidden places. And maybe, just maybe, bringing them into the light isn't about reliving the pain, but about releasing its hold on me. I take a breath and whisper, I don't want to be afraid of my own heart anymore. It's strange, this act of prayer. For so long, I thought prayer was about perfect words, tidy thoughts, presenting my best self. But these nights have taught me something truer. Prayer is about bringing my real self, messy, scared, unfinished, and trusting I'll be met with love, not judgment. If God already knows what's inside these boxes, then prayer isn't about hiding. It's about letting Him stand with me as I open them. One by one, I imagine lifting the lids. Some hold memories that sting, the sharp words spoken to me in childhood, the failures I still replay when I'm lying awake. Others hold feelings I can't quite name, a mix of sadness and longing, anger, and fear. I don't rush the process. I let myself feel what I feel, knowing healing can't be forced. And in that quiet, I sense something unexpected: gentleness. Not condemnation, not shame, just a steady presence reminding me I am not alone here. The parts I've hidden are not beyond love. The wounds I've buried are not beyond healing. I linger in this quiet space, surprised by the relief I feel simply from naming what's been hidden. It's not that the pain is gone, far from it, but something shifts when I stop pretending it isn't there. When I let myself acknowledge the truth, I open the door for love to enter. I think about how often I've judged these parts of me, called them weak, called them unworthy. Told myself I should be over them by now. But the truth is, these wounds don't need judgment. They need gentleness. They need the kind of love that sits with me in the dark, unafraid of the mess. The kind of love that whispers, "I'm not leaving, even here." There are pieces of my story I've wanted to erase, chapters I've closed so tightly that I can barely breathe when they come up. But what if healing isn't erasing those chapters, but integrating them? What if the goal isn't to pretend they never happened, but to see them through new eyes, eyes of grace, eyes of compassion? As I pray, I feel a soft invitation. Bring it all. Bring the anger I've buried. Bring the fear I've tried to outgrow. Bring the longing I've been too afraid to name. Nothing is too small. Nothing is too much. So I begin to speak honestly, maybe for the first time. Here's the part of me that still aches. Here's the memory I wish I could forget. Here's the shame I've carried for years. I don't have fancy words, but I don't think I need them. What I need is truth. What I need is presence. The more I let myself be honest, the more I sense release. It's not instant, it's slow, almost imperceptible, like ice melting in spring. But it's happening, and for the first time, I believe healing might actually be possible. Even for me, even here, even now. Before this prayer unfolds, I notice how much lighter my chest feels compared to where I began. It's not that everything is fixed. The wounds I've hidden are still there, but I'm not bracing against them as tightly as I used to. There's a softness, a sense that maybe I don't have to carry this alone anymore. That maybe the act of opening up, of letting light in, is already part of the healing I've been searching for. I've spent so many nights afraid of my own thoughts, afraid of the memories that surface when the world goes quiet. I used to believe that silence was dangerous, that if I stopped distracting myself, I'd be swallowed by everything I was trying not to feel. But I'm learning something different now. Silence can also be sacred. It can be the place where I finally hear what's been buried under the noise, and where I can finally hear a whisper of love that's been steady all along. There are pieces of my story I've never told anyone, not because they don't matter, but because they matter too much. The shame, the regret, the fears I still carry from years ago, they've shaped me in ways I'm only now beginning to understand. For so long, I thought hiding them made me strong. But strength built on hiding isn't real strength. It's just survival. And I want more than survival. I want healing. I want wholeness. I sit here and let the quiet stretch, not rushing to fill it. At first, it feels strange, almost uncomfortable, to be this honest with myself. But slowly, I notice a shift. The more I allow my hidden parts to exist without judgment, the more I sense they're longing for this kind of attention. They don't want perfection. They want presence. They want to know they're not alone in the dark. For so long, I believed healing would come only once I changed, once I stopped feeling what I felt, once I became someone stronger, braver, better. But what if healing begins here, in the messy middle? What if love is what makes me stronger, not the other way around? That thought changes everything. I think about the memories I've tucked away, the ones that still surface when I least expect them. A word spoken carelessly that cut deep, a moment of rejection that left me questioning my worth. Choices I made in weakness that I wish I could undo. I've carried these things in silence, believing they defined me. But tonight, I want to lay them down. I'd either let love speak a louder word than shame. So I begin to whisper, here it is. Here's the pain I've been hiding. Here's the regret I've been carrying. Here's the part of me that still aches. My voice trembles, even in prayer, but I keep going. With each word, I feel the weight shift, not gone, but shared, not holding it alone anymore. The more I stay in this space, the more I notice how different it feels from the way I used to pray. I'm not bargaining or performing. I'm not trying to say the right thing. I'm simply being honest, raw, unfiltered, real. And for the first time, I believe that's enough. I remain in this quiet, letting each breath anchor me to this moment. It's strange how the hidden parts of me, the ones I used to fear, start to feel less threatening once I give them room to exist. It's like they've been waiting for someone to notice them, to listen without rushing, to offer gentleness instead of shame. I think about how many years I spent covering these wounds, hoping no one would see. I thought hiding them would protect me. But really, it only kept me lonely. Love can't heal what I refuse to reveal. Tonight I take another small step. I hold these pieces up to the light, trembling but willing, and I whisper, here I am. All of me, even the parts I'd rather hide. The honesty feels risky, but freeing. For the first time, I sense that healing isn't about erasing my past, but about letting love rewrite how I see it. The mistakes don't disappear, but their power to define me begins to fade. The shame loses its grip, and in its place, something softer grows, a quiet assurance that I am more than what I've done, more than what was done to me, more than the sum of my worst moments. I close my eyes and picture placing every hidden memory into hands bigger than mine. The anger, the fear, the regret, the longing, all of it. And I hear a quiet whisper. You are safe. You are loved, even here. That whisper doesn't erase the pain, but it gives me the courage to rest, to believe that tomorrow can be gentler, to trust that healing is already happening, even when I can't see it. Before I step deeper into this prayer, I notice something I never expected. The parts of me I've been most afraid to face are slowly becoming the places where I feel the most tenderness. It's almost as if they've been waiting for this moment, for someone to stop running, to stop ignoring, and simply to stay. For years, I believed my hidden wounds made me unworthy. Tonight, I'm starting to believe they might be the very places where healing begins. I think back to all the nights I spent trying to be strong, holding my breath through anxiety, smiling through pain, so no one would worry, pretending I was fine because I thought that's what love required. But love built on pretending isn't love at all. Love that lasts is love that sees. Maybe this is what God's love really looks like. Not turning away from the mess, but stepping into it with me. There are memories I've buried so deep I almost forgot they were there. Words spoken that still echo. Moments of rejection that shaped how I see myself. Regrets that surface at the quietest hours of the night. For so long, I thought ignoring them was the only way to survive. But survival isn't the same as healing. And I want more than survival. I want to live whole. I let myself linger on that thought that I want more than survival. It feels daring to admit, almost rebellious, after so many years of simply trying to get by. But somewhere deep inside, I know it's true. I don't just want to exist. I want to feel whole, safe, loved, even in the places I've been afraid to look. And maybe naming that desire is the first step toward receiving it. For years, I convinced myself that ignoring my hidden wounds would make them disappear. I threw myself into work, relationships, distractions, anything to keep from facing the ache. But no matter how far I ran, it always caught up to me in the quiet. The silence of night has a way of revealing what we've tried to bury. And here I am again, meeting those parts face to face, whispering, I see you now, and I won't turn away this time. There's pain in this honesty. Yes. But there's also a strange kind of relief. Pretending everything is fine is exhausting. Carrying hidden pain in silence is heavier than admitting it aloud. Tonight, I'll lay it down, not because I have all the answers, but because I'm tired of holding it alone. I whisper a quiet prayer, take this weight, heal what I cannot heal on my own, touch the places I've hidden, even from myself, and show me they can still be loved. As I sit here, I feel memories surface, some sharp, some faded, all still tender. I don't try to analyze them or fix them. I simply notice. I let myself feel the grief I've pushed away, the longing I've silenced, the anger I've swallowed. It's messy, but it's real. And I think maybe real is where healing begins. I stay in this space longer than I expected, breathing through the ache as more of my hidden memories rise to the surface. Some of them feel faint now, shadows of a pain that used to control me. Others still feel raw, as if they happened yesterday. For a moment I wonder if I'm strong enough to face them, but then I realize something important. I don't have to be strong to be healed. I just have to be willing. Willing to open my hands. Willing to let love come close. Willing to stop hiding. It's strange how quickly the weight begins to shift when I let myself be honest. I used to think vulnerability would make me weaker, but it's doing the opposite. In admitting what hurts, I feel lighter. In naming what I've hidden, I feel seen. And being seen, truly seen, is what I've needed all along. I whisper again, heal these parts of me I've hidden. Heal the regret I can't let go of. Heal the fears I still carry. Heal the shame I've mistaken for identity. The words are simple, but they feel like sacred ground. For so long, I've prayed for everything else, for success, for answers, for circumstances to change. Tonight I pray for my soul, for the parts no one sees but me. And I picture handing each memory over, one by one. The moment I felt unwanted. The time I said words I wish I could take back. The dreams that died quietly when no one was watching. Each one rests in hands bigger than mine, and I hear the quietest whisper. You are still loved. You are still mine. Nothing you've hidden is beyond my healing. As I finally prepare for rest, I feel something I haven't felt in a long time. Not perfection, not a sudden erasing of pain, but safety. Enough safety to close my eyes without bracing. Enough safety to believe that even the deepest wounds can become places of beauty. Before I continue, I pause to notice how far this journey has already brought me. The hidden parts of my heart don't feel quite as frightening as they once did. They're still tender, still healing, but the shame that once wrapped around them is loosening. I never thought I could sit this long with my own pain and not drown in it, yet here I am, breathing deeper than I have in years. That itself feels like a miracle. For most of my life, I believed my hidden wounds disqualified me from love. I thought if anyone saw the real me, the messy me, the doubting me, the me who still flinches at old memories, they'd turn away. So I hid. I smiled when I was breaking. I stayed busy when I needed rest. I wore strength like armor, even when it was crushing me. But armor may protect you for a while. It also keeps you from being touched. And I've longed for more than protection. I've longed for connection. This prayer, night after night, feels like slowly taking off that armor, piece by piece, fear by fear, regret by regret. It's terrifying and freeing all at once. I didn't realize how heavy it had become until I started laying it down. I linger in this quiet space, and feel how unfamiliar it is to be gentle with myself. For so long, I've been my own harshest critic. Every mistake, every regret, every weakness, I've replayed them like evidence in a trial I could never win. I thought shame would keep me from making the same mistakes again, but all it did was keep me stuck. Tonight, I choose something different. Tonight, I choose compassion. Compassion doesn't mean excusing the pain or pretending it never happened. It means looking at the truth with softer eyes. It means saying, yes, this hurt me, but it doesn't define me. Yes, I've failed, but I am still worthy of love. Yes, I carry scars, but I am more than my scars. Those words feel almost foreign in my mouth, but they're the words I need most. As I pray, memories rise like waves, moments I thought I'd forgotten, moments I pushed down so deep they only surface when everything else is quiet. It's tempting to turn away, to distract myself, but I stay. I breathe through each one, offering them up as quietly as I can. Heal this, hold this. Don't let me carry it alone anymore. And little by little, I feel the weight shift, not disappear, not yet, but become lighter, as if I'm finally sharing it instead of bearing it all myself. That's what love does. It doesn't erase the past, but it makes it bearable. It doesn't promise I'll never feel pain again, but it promises I'll never be alone in it. I stay with this feeling longer than I thought I could. The quiet isn't as threatening now. It feels almost sacred. I realize that the parts of me I've hidden, the ones I thought were unworthy, are exactly the parts that most need love. They don't need me to fix them in a hurry. They need me to stop running, to sit with them, to listen, to let them know they belong too. For so long, I treated healing like a race, something I had to finish quickly so I could move on with my life. But I'm learning that healing isn't about speed. It's about presence. It's about returning, night after night, to the places I've avoided until they no longer feel so frightening. It's about believing that even the most wounded parts of me can be touched by love. As I breathe, I imagine gathering all those hidden memories, the ones I've shoved into corners of my soul, and placing them gently into hands far bigger than mine. Every mistake, every hurt, every word I wish I could take back. And in that quiet exchange, I hear it again. You are safe now. You are loved now. Nothing you hide can separate you from my care. It doesn't erase the past, but it changes how I carry it. The shame begins to loosen. The fear begins to soften, and in its place grows something I never expected. Hope. Hope that maybe I don't have to hide anymore. Hope that maybe wholeness is possible, even for me. Before I even begin speaking tonight, I notice how different this journey feels compared to when I started. The fear hasn't fully disappeared, but the weight of hiding is lighter. There's something liberating about no longer pretending I have it all together, about being able to whisper, even in prayer, I'm still healing, and that's okay. For so long, I thought my hidden wounds were proof of weakness, proof that I wasn't strong enough, faithful enough, good enough. But the more I open them up in these quiet nights, the more I realize they're not proof of failure. They're proof of being human, proof that I've lived, that I've loved, that I've been hurt, and that I'm still here. That realization alone feels like a kind of grace I never expected. I let myself remember the times I've hidden, the forced smiles, the cheerful answers, the busyness I used to keep from feeling anything too deeply. I thought hiding would keep me safe, but all it did was make me feel isolated. Love can't reach what I refuse to reveal, and I think that's why these nights of prayer have become so holy, because for the first time, I'm not hiding anymore. I breathe slowly, feeling the air fill my lungs and release, a rhythm I rarely notice until the quiet makes me aware of it. There's something healing in this rhythm. Inhale, exhale, letting go of the day piece by piece. Tonight I think about the pieces I've kept hidden the longest, the ones I almost forgot were there because I buried them so deeply. Sometimes it's easier to hide pain than to face it, but hiding never heals. It only delays, and I realize now how many years I've delayed my own healing out of fear. Fear of what I'd find if I opened those locked doors. Fear of whether anyone, even God, could handle what was inside. But night after night, this prayer is showing me a truth I didn't believe before. Love isn't scared of what I hide. It's drawn to it. It wants to meet me in the places I've deemed unworthy. I think of the specific moments, sharp words spoken when I was too young to understand their weight, memories of being overlooked, times I blamed myself for things I couldn't control. These memories surface like old photographs, edges frayed but still carrying weight, and for the first time, I don't turn away. I stay. I let myself feel the sadness I've ignored, the anger I've swallowed, the longing I've silenced. It's uncomfortable, but it feels honest, and honesty is the first step toward freedom. As I sit here, I whisper simple prayers. Heal this part of me. See this wound. Don't let me carry it alone anymore. The words are soft, almost childlike, but they feel truer than any polished prayer I've ever spoken. I'm not trying to impress. I'm just trying to be real. And I think that's enough. I stay in the stillness, surprised at how much calmer my body feels than when I began. The weight of what I've hidden hasn't vanished, but it's no longer crushing me. It's strange how simply naming the hurt changes it, how admitting I need healing creates space for healing to begin. For so many years, I believed I had to fix myself before I could be loved. I thought perfection was the price of belonging. But these nights of prayer are teaching me a different truth. I am loved even in my unfinished places. I am held even when I am messy. I am worthy of gentleness, even here. As I breathe, I imagine placing each memory, the ones I've carried in silence for so long, into hands greater than mine. I picture the anger, the regret, the shame, all resting in that steady grip. And in the quiet, I hear it again. You are safe. You are loved. Nothing you've hidden is too much for me. The words settle into the deepest parts of me, softening what I've held tight for too long. I whisper one last prayer before sleep. Keep meeting me in these hidden places. Keep teaching me that I don't have to hide to be loved. Keep healing me, even in the quiet of the night. And with that, I finally allow myself to rest, not because everything is fixed, but because I no longer need to run. Before I begin this part of the prayer, I pause and recognize how far I've already come. There's a tenderness here now, a softness I didn't have in the beginning. I used to flinch at the thought of opening up these hidden places. Now, though still fragile, there's a willingness, a quiet hope that each time I face what I've hidden, something inside me loosens just a little more. I think about the layers of hiding I've built over the years, each one added to protect me from hurt, each one making it harder to be known. For a long time, I believed those layers were necessary. But the longer I carry them, the heavier they feel. Tonight, I sense it's time to lay down another layer. Not all at once, but slowly, as trust grows. I breathe in deeply, letting my shoulders relax, realizing how rarely I give myself permission to simply pause. For so long, I've rushed through everything, through pain, through grief, through moments that needed time. I thought if I hurried, I could outrun the ache. But pain doesn't disappear just because I move fast. It waits. It waits until the quiet, until nights like this, when I have no choice but to listen. Tonight, instead of running, I choose to listen, to sit with what surfaces, even if it trembles, even if it aches, because I'm learning something I never believed before. Healing isn't found in denying the pain. Healing begins when I finally let it speak. Memories begin to rise, one after another. Some are faint, like shadows at the edge of my vision. Others are vivid, almost startling in their clarity. A careless word spoken years ago that still lingers in my chest. A moment of abandonment I swore I'd never talk about. The quiet shame I've carried over. Choices I made in desperation. Choices I wish I could undo. I let each one surface, not to dwell, but to finally give them room to breathe. There's a voice inside me that still whispers, "You should be over this by now. Why are you still holding on to this?" But I answer back, softly, because I never had a safe place to let it go until now. And maybe that's why these prayers feel so different. For the first time, I have space to name what hurts without fear of being judged. For the first time, I can whisper, "This is what I've hidden. This is where I need healing," and believe I won't be abandoned. Before I whisper anything tonight, I feel the quiet differently. It's no longer heavy the way it once was. It feels like a doorway I've walked through many nights in this journey, each one peeling back a different layer of my heart. And somehow, I've discovered pieces of myself I didn't know were still alive. Soft, tender pieces that want to heal, that want to belong. I think about how much of my life I've spent bracing against pain, tightening my chest, clenching my jaw, preparing for the next blow. That posture became second nature to me. But tonight, I let my shoulders drop. I let my hands unclench. I tell myself something I never used to believe. You don't have to stay ready for pain anymore. You can rest. I remain in this quiet, letting the memories settle like dust after a storm. The urge to rush past them is still there. That old instinct to distract myself, to push forward, to pretend it doesn't matter, but I resist it tonight. I stay because I'm learning that what I avoid doesn't disappear. It just waits. And I don't want to spend my life running from myself anymore. I picture the hidden parts of me sitting in this field, hesitant but curious. They've been alone for so long, waiting to see if I would come back for them. I walk toward them slowly, without judgment, without demanding they change. I sit beside them and whisper, "I see you. I'm not leaving." And for the first time, I sense them believe me. The honesty feels risky, but it also feels like the truest prayer I've ever prayed. No polished words, no performance, just truth. And in that truth, I sense a love that has been here all along, steady and unafraid of my mess. Love that doesn't flinch at scars. Love that calls even my hidden parts worthy. As I prepare for rest, I feel something I never expected. Hope. Not the loud, shouting kind. The quiet hope that comes when I realize I don't have to hide anymore. The hope that tomorrow might feel lighter than today. Not because everything is fixed, but because I finally believe I'm loved even in my unfinished places. I settle into the quiet and feel how different this posture is from the way I've lived most of my life. I've always been on guard, always braced for what might come next, as if staying tense could somehow protect me from hurt. But tonight, for the first time, I let myself soften. My shoulders drop, my breath slows, and I feel the release of letting go. It doesn't erase the memories, but it makes room for something gentler to meet me here. As I pray, I picture a field at dusk, soft grass under my feet, the last traces of sunlight painting the sky. It's not perfect. There are patches of dirt, uneven ground, but it feels safe. For years, I've carried my hidden wounds through places that felt dangerous, where vulnerability was a risk I couldn't afford. But here, in this quiet place inside me, I sense safety growing, enough safety to name what I've hidden, enough safety to believe healing might really happen. Memories surface. Moments I thought I'd left behind, but that still echo in quiet ways. A conversation that ended in silence. A goodbye I never got to speak. The ache of wanting to belong and never being sure I did. I hold these memories gently now, not as enemies, but as teachers. They've shaped me, yes, but they don't have to define me forever. I whisper softly. This is what I've hidden. This is what I've carried. Please meet me here. The words feel simple, but honesty always does. And with each word, I feel lighter, not because everything is solved, but because I'm no longer pretending. I'm no longer alone in what I carry. I stay in that inner room longer than I planned, noticing details I never let myself see before. The way some memories still feel sharp, while others have softened with time. There's sadness here, yes, but there's also resilience. The very fact that I'm standing here, breathing, praying, is proof that I've survived what once felt impossible, and that realization feels holy. I begin to speak softly to the hidden parts. You're safe now. You don't have to fight so hard anymore. You don't have to carry this alone. It feels strange, talking to myself this way, like offering kindness to a child I've ignored. But maybe that's exactly what these hidden places have needed all along. Gentleness, not criticism. Love, not silence. As I pray, I picture laying each hidden memory down, one by one, on the floor of this quiet room, not to forget them, but to let them rest. The more I lay down, the lighter I feel. Not weightless. Healing rarely happens in an instant, but lighter enough to breathe differently, lighter enough to believe tomorrow might feel softer than today. I close my eyes and whisper, meet me here again tomorrow. Keep teaching me that I am more than what I hide. Keep reminding me that even these fragile places can be beautiful. And with that, I let myself rest. Not because everything is perfect, but because I no longer need to hide to be loved. I let myself breathe into this thought, that healing isn't about erasing my scars, but learning to live with them in love. For years I hated the parts of me that carried pain. I wished I could cut them out, pretend they never existed, rewrite my history so it looked cleaner. But I'm starting to see that my story, with all its jagged edges, is still worth loving. Maybe even beautiful because of those edges. As I pray, I imagine walking into a quiet room inside my heart. It's different from the rooms I've visited before, brighter somehow, but the light is soft. Along the walls are fragments of my story I've never faced. The night I cried myself to sleep and told no one. The day I felt invisible in a crowd. The moments I questioned whether I mattered at all. I stand there quietly, not rushing to fix anything, simply acknowledging that these memories shaped me. There's power in acknowledgement, not in reliving the pain, but in telling the truth. This happened. It hurt me. And I'm still here. That truth alone feels like a kind of victory. I whisper softly. Show me how to hold these pieces without shame. Show me how to love the parts of me I've hidden, even when they feel unworthy. The words feel raw, but they're honest. And honesty is where freedom begins. Before I whisper another prayer tonight, I notice how far this journey has carried me. The walls I once built so high around my hidden wounds aren't as strong anymore. There are cracks now, not from breaking, but from light slowly making its way in. And maybe that's what healing is. Not erasing the cracks, but letting light pour through them. I think back to the version of me who first began these prayers, scared, guarded, certain that love couldn't reach the places I'd hidden. I want to tell that version of me something now. You are closer to freedom than you realize. You are braver than you know. Even in the quiet, even in the trembling, you're still moving forward. I stay here longer than I planned, letting the quiet become familiar. The hidden parts of me, the ones I thought I had to keep locked away, begin to feel less frightening. They're still tender, but they're no longer enemies. They're simply parts of my story, waiting to be acknowledged, waiting to be loved. I think about how much energy I've spent pretending I didn't need healing, smiling when I wanted to cry, saying I'm fine when my heart was breaking, carrying more than I was ever meant to carry. Tonight, I set that down, not because everything is fixed, but because I finally believe I don't have to hold it all by myself. I whisper softly, here are the parts of me I've hidden. Here are the wounds I've carried in silence. Teach me that even these can be loved. Teach me that healing is possible. Even here, the words feel risky, but they also feel like freedom, because honesty is the first step toward wholeness, and I'm ready to be whole. As I prepare for rest, I breathe in deeply, letting the weight lift from my chest. The pain isn't gone, but it's softer now. The shame isn't as loud. There's room for grace here, room for sleep, room for tomorrow to feel lighter than today. I sit in the stillness, feeling how unusual it is to allow myself this kind of pause. My life has been full of movement, rushing from one thing to the next, always performing, always pretending I was fine. But in the quiet, I finally meet the parts of me I've been running from. They aren't loud, they're tired, and maybe they've been waiting for this, for me to stop long enough to listen. I think of the promises I made when I was hurting. Promises like never let them see you cry, or don't ever let your guard down again. At the time, those promises kept me safe, but now they keep me from love. They keep me distant, even from the healing I've been praying for. Tonight, I let one of those promises go. Just one. I whisper softly, it's safe now. You can rest. Memories begin to rise, slow and steady. Some are sharp, full of words I wish I could forget. Others are blurry, more feeling than detail. A heaviness I can't quite explain. A loneliness that never left. I name them gently, not to shame myself, but to release them. Each memory I hand over feels like setting down a stone I've carried for far too long. There's no rushing in this moment. Healing doesn't happen in a hurry. It's slow, like breathing through pain, until it softens, like learning to trust step by step. And tonight, I choose to trust, not because I have proof, but because I want freedom more than I want control. Before I begin this prayer tonight, I notice something unexpected. The heaviness I used to carry feels different now. It's not gone, but it's no longer suffocating. There's space to breathe here, space to feel, space to believe that maybe I don't have to hide anymore. That maybe every hidden part of me is slowly learning it's safe to be seen. I think about how many years I spent bracing myself against pain, building walls, rehearsing smiles, numbing my feelings. I thought that was the only way to survive. But survival isn't the same as living, and tonight I want more than survival. I want to live whole. I want to trust love enough to stay open, even in the places that hurt. I stay in this quiet space longer than I planned, realizing how much my soul has been craving this kind of honesty. For years I tried to fill the silence with noise, with work, with anything that would keep me from hearing my own heart. But the silence isn't my enemy. It's where I finally meet myself. It's where I finally meet the love I've been searching for. I think about all the ways I've hidden behind smiles, behind busyness, behind perfectionism. Each layer I built was meant to protect me, but it also kept me distant. And I'm tired of being distant. I want to be whole. I want to let love reach even the places I've guarded most. As I pray, I imagine taking those guarded places, the shame I've carried, the regrets I've replayed, the fears I've tried to silence, and placing them into steady hands that don't flinch, hands that hold me without rushing, without demanding I hurry up and get over it. In that picture, I feel something loosen. The weight doesn't vanish, but it becomes lighter, more bearable, because I'm not holding it alone anymore. I whisper softly, here I am, all of me, even the parts I've hidden. Teach me that nothing is beyond healing. Teach me that even here, I am loved. The words feel risky, but they also feel true, and maybe that's enough to begin. By the time I prepare to rest, I notice the difference, not in my circumstances, but in my heart. The shame isn't as loud, the fear isn't as heavy, There's room now, room for gentleness, room for grace, room for sleep. Before I speak tonight, I take a moment to notice how this journey has softened me. The fear that once felt overwhelming is quieter now. The walls I built around my heart aren't as high. I can feel air moving through places that used to be sealed shut. This is what healing looks like. Slow, steady, sometimes so subtle I barely notice it until I pause like this. I think about the me who started these prayers, so guarded, so sure that the hidden paths were unlovable. And I want to tell that version of me, you're safe now. You don't have to carry this alone anymore. Maybe that's what this whole process is. Learning to speak kindness to the parts of me I once silenced. I stay with this softness longer than I expected, realizing how different it feels to offer myself gentleness instead of judgment. For so many years, I thought shame would keep me from repeating mistakes, that if I punished myself enough, I would finally become better. But shame never healed me. It only kept me trapped. Tonight, I choose something new. Grace. Grace doesn't erase the past, but it changes how I carry it. It tells me I am more than the worst thing I've done, more than the hardest thing I've endured. Grace whispers, you are loved here. You belong here. Even this part of you can rest. As I pray, I imagine handing over every hidden memory. The words I wish I'd never heard. The ones I wish I'd never said. The moments I've replayed in silence for years. I place them all in hands bigger than mine, trusting they are safe there. Trusting I no longer have to hold them alone. The quiet that follows isn't empty. It's full. Full of release. Full of a love I can't explain but can finally feel. And in that fullness, I close my eyes and let myself rest. Not because everything is perfect, but because I've finally stopped hiding. I let myself breathe deeply, feeling how strange it is to admit I'm tired of pretending. For so long, I thought I had to keep it all together, that strength meant silence, that resilience meant hiding what hurt. But I see now that real strength looks different. Real strength is sitting here, night after night, facing what I've buried and whispering, heal this, meet me here, don't let me carry it alone anymore. Memories rise, slow and deliberate, as if they've been waiting for this invitation. Some are faint, distant echoes that have lost their sharpness with time. Others are vivid, almost alive, carrying the same sting they did years ago. I let each one come without rushing to fix it. I simply name them and place them into steady hands, bigger than mine. There is something freeing about this honesty. For years, I believed my hidden wounds made me unworthy. Now I see they make me human, and humanity, in all its mess and beauty, is still loved, fully, deeply, without condition. The parts I hide are not beyond grace. They are where grace longs to dwell. I whisper softly. I release what I cannot change. I forgive what I once thought unforgivable. I receive love I never believed could be mine. These words feel almost too tender to speak aloud, but they are the ones my soul has been waiting for. Before I speak tonight, I notice how different this journey feels compared to when it began. The fear of facing my hidden wounds hasn't disappeared, but it's quieter now. The shame that once screamed in my ears has softened to a whisper. There's more space for gentleness here, for patience, for grace, and that alone feels like healing. I think about the years I spent pretending I was fine, smiling through pain, staying busy so I wouldn't have to feel, hiding the parts of me I thought no one could love. Those habits kept me alive for a time, but they also kept me lonely, because love can't heal what I refuse to reveal. Tonight, I'm done hiding. I linger in this space, surprised at how different it feels to stay instead of run. The quiet that once terrified me now feels almost safe. Not because every memory is easy to face, but because I'm no longer facing them alone. There is a presence here, patient, steady, that refuses to leave, no matter how messy my thoughts become. That presence is teaching me something I never believed before. Even the parts of me I've hidden can be loved. I think back to the promises I made to myself when the pain was fresh. Don't let anyone see. Don't ever be this vulnerable again. Keep it together at all costs. Those promises protected me once, but they've become walls that keep love out. Tonight, I let one of those walls fall. Just one. Slowly, carefully. It feels risky, but it also feels like freedom. I whisper quietly, here is the wound I thought was too deep. Here is the memory I thought I had to hide. Here is the shame I thought I'd carry forever. Heal it, hold it, teach me I'm still loved, even here. The words are soft, almost trembling, but they feel true, and in speaking them, I sense something shifting. Not loud, but deep. A loosening, a quiet release. By the time I prepare for sleep, my heart feels lighter. Not because everything is fixed, but because I no longer need to pretend. I can rest, knowing healing is already happening, even if slowly, even if unseen. I let myself breathe into that thought, that even the most hidden parts of me long to rest. For years, I've mistaken them for enemies, believing they were proof of weakness, proof that I wasn't strong enough. But tonight, I see them differently. They are simply tired parts of my soul that have carried too much for too long. They don't need more judgment. They need gentleness. As I sit here, memories begin to surface, not all at once, but one at a time, as if they've been waiting for permission to rise. A sharp word spoken long ago that I still carry in my chest. A decision I regret and replay in the quiet. A moment I felt unseen, and the story I built around it, that I must be unworthy of love. These moments are tender, fragile, but for the first time, I don't turn away. I stay. I let them breathe. I whisper softly, here they are. Here's what I've hidden. Heal what I cannot heal on my own. The words are simple, but they feel honest. And honesty, I'm learning, is where healing begins. The more I pray this way, the more I sense release. Not because the pain is gone, not yet, but because I no longer carry it alone. Something steady meets me here, in the quiet, something unafraid of my mess. And that presence, patient, gentle, is teaching me to be unafraid, too. Before I speak tonight, I notice something quiet in me, a calm I never thought I'd find in these hidden places. It doesn't mean the wounds are gone. It doesn't mean the memories don't still ache, but the shame is softer now. The weight is lighter, and that alone feels like grace. I think about the way I used to fear silence, how I'd drown it out with noise just to avoid meeting myself in the quiet. But silence, I've learned, is where healing begins. In silence, I can finally hear the parts of me I've ignored. I can finally listen to what they've been trying to tell me all these years. We want to be seen. We want to be loved. We want to rest. I stay in this quiet, allowing the memories to surface one by one. Instead of pushing them away, I hold them carefully, not to relive the pain, but to acknowledge it. To let love meet me exactly where I am. The longer I stay, the less frightening these memories feel. They're no longer the monsters I made them out to be. They're simply parts of my story, waiting for kindness. For so long, I believed kindness was something I owed only to others. I thought being gentle with myself was weakness, even selfishness. But I'm learning that healing requires it, that I can't give real compassion to others if I refuse to offer it to myself. And so tonight, I whisper not only prayers for my hidden wounds, but blessings for the one who carries them. Blessings over my tired heart. Blessings over the parts of me I once rejected. I imagine placing every regret, every hidden hurt into steady hands bigger than mine. I hear a whisper, "You don't have to hold this alone anymore." The words settle deep, loosening what I've carried for so long. Tears fall, not of despair, but of release, of relief. By the time I prepare for sleep, I feel lighter. Not because everything is solved, but because I finally stopped hiding. And in that honesty, I've found a quiet kind of peace I didn't know was possible. I close my eyes and picture those layers I've worn, the quiet masks I've learned to put on so no one can see the ache beneath. Smiles that didn't reach my eyes, words that felt rehearsed, strength I forced even when I was breaking. At first I thought this was survival, but over time I realized it was also isolation. No one could love the real me if I never let them see her. As I sit here in prayer, I imagine gently peeling back one of those layers. Not to expose myself to shame, but to let light touch what's been hidden. The moment feels fragile, like stepping into unknown territory, but I remind myself that love has already been waiting here. There is no surprise in what I reveal, only welcome. Memories rise as I do this, sharp, vivid, almost like they happened yesterday. A word spoken in anger that still echoes in my head. A moment of silence when I needed someone to fight for me, but no one did. Regrets over choices I made when I didn't know better. These memories have shaped how I see myself, but tonight I dare to believe they don't define me forever. I whisper softly, "Heal this part of me. Let me see it through your eyes, not the eyes of my shame." The words feel almost too simple, but I think that's what makes them powerful. Healing doesn't come from eloquence, it comes from honesty. And for the first time I feel free enough to be honest. I remain in this quiet, letting the presence of love sit with me in every place I once believed was unworthy. It feels strange at first, almost too gentle, but slowly I realize how much I've longed for this, to be accepted without having to fix everything first, to be seen without fear of rejection, to be loved without condition. I think of the promises I've made to myself over the years, promises to stay guarded, to keep the walls high, to never let anyone see the hurt. Those promises kept me safe for a time, but they also kept me lonely. Tonight, I feel ready to release them, not because I no longer fear pain, but because I've found something stronger than fear. Trust. Trust that love won't abandon me, even if the healing is messy. So I open my hands in prayer, quietly offering everything I've carried in secret, the regrets, the shame, the longing to be whole. I picture placing each one gently into hands bigger than mine, and as I do, I hear a whisper in my spirit, "You are safe, you are loved, even this part of you is not too much for me." The words don't erase the past, but they soften its weight. They give me permission to rest. As I prepare for sleep, I breathe in deeply and let it out slowly. And I don't have to hide anymore. Not from love, not from healing, not even from myself. I breathe deeply, letting the silence wrap around me like a blanket. It feels different now, less like emptiness and more like invitation. For so long, I ran from this quiet because I was afraid of what I'd find inside it, but now I see that quiet can be healing. It gives me space to listen, to notice what I've hidden, and to let love reach the places I've kept in the dark. Memories begin to rise, slow and unhurried, but painful words spoken long ago. A decision I wish I could undo. The moment when I felt unseen and decided I'd never risk being vulnerable again. These fragments surface, not to shame me, but to show me where healing is still needed. I whisper softly, "Here they are. Here's the pain I've carried. Please meet me here." I realize how often I've tried to handle this alone, how I've buried my feelings under busyness, convinced myself I didn't need help, smiled while quietly unraveling inside. But love doesn't demand I handle it alone. Love invites me to bring everything, even the messy, even the unspoken, and trust I won't be abandoned. The more I pray, the more I sense release. Not because the pain is gone, but because I no longer have to carry it by myself. That shift from isolation to presence feels like the beginning of freedom. Before I whisper another word tonight, I pause to notice how much has changed since the first prayer I spoke. The fear I once felt toward my hidden wounds is softer now. I no longer brace myself the same way. There's still pain, yes, but there's also a gentleness I never thought I'd feel. A quiet acceptance that maybe healing doesn't require me to erase the past, but to learn how to carry it differently. I think back to who I was when I started hiding. I see someone younger, someone trying desperately to protect themselves from hurt, someone who believed pretending was the only way to survive. That person isn't bad, they were just scared. And maybe that's where compassion begins, seeing the scared versions of ourselves and offering them the gentleness we didn't receive back then. Tonight, I want to pray not only for healing of the hidden parts, but for kindness toward the one who hid them, for patience with the parts of me that still tremble, for the courage to keep showing up, even when progress feels slow, because healing isn't a single moment, it's a journey, and I want to keep walking it. I stay with this gentle presence longer than I intended, realizing that I don't need to rush this process. Healing can't be forced, it unfolds slowly, layer by layer, as trust grows. For the first time in years, I sense trust growing here, trust that I don't have to handle this alone, trust that love is steady enough to hold even what I hide. I think about the pieces of me I've carried like secrets, the mistakes, the regrets, the unspoken fears. I used to believe if anyone saw them, they'd walk away. But night after night, as I bring them into this quiet, I keep finding the same response, presence. Not leaving, not abandoning, simply staying. And that staying is healing me in ways words can't describe. I whisper again, here is my shame, here is my fear, here is the wound I never thought could heal. And in that whisper, I feel a shift, not dramatic, not loud, but deep. It's the quiet assurance that I am seen and loved exactly as I am, that I don't have to hide anymore, that even the parts of me I thought were too broken can be restored. By the time I close my eyes, I feel lighter, not because everything is fixed, but because I'm no longer pretending I don't need healing. I've stopped hiding, and in that honesty, I found the first real taste of peace. I sit with the silence and let it stretch longer than I'm used to. At first it feels uncomfortable, like I should fill it with words or movement. But the longer I stay, the more I realize silence isn't empty. It's full of memories rising to the surface, full of feelings I've ignored, full of an invitation to be honest. One by one, those memories arrive. A careless comment that lodged in my heart years ago. A moment I wish I could rewrite. The fear of never being enough, echoing louder than anything else. They come uninvited, but I welcome them now, because hiding never helped me heal. It only kept me stuck. I whisper softly, heal this part of me. See what I've hidden. See what I've hidden. Sit with me here. The prayer is simple, but it feels like opening a door I've been holding shut for too long. And as I open it, I sense something I never expected. Not condemnation, but comfort. Not judgment, but gentleness. For years I believed the worst parts of me disqualified me from love. Now I'm learning they're the very parts most in need of it. Healing doesn't mean ignoring them or pretending they don't exist. It means inviting love into them. It means letting light reach even the darkest corners of my soul. Before I open my mouth to pray, I pause and notice something I couldn't have imagined at the start of this journey. The fear of facing myself is softer now. The hidden places inside me, the ones I used to avoid, feel less like enemies and more like quiet children waiting to be held. I never thought I'd get here, to this space where I can sit with my own heart and not feel crushed by shame. But here I am, and that feels like great. For so long, I believed healing would only come once I figured everything out, once I understood why I was hurt, once I stopped feeling anxious, once I became better. But I see now that healing doesn't wait for understanding. Healing comes in the showing up, in the breathing, in the quiet confession. Here I am, even in my mess. Please meet me here. I think about all the nights I spent hiding behind distractions, scrolling endlessly, filling my time, drowning out the silence, because silence was where the memories screamed the loudest. But in trying to silence the pain, I silenced the chance for healing too. Tonight, I choose differently. Tonight, I listen. I remain in this inner space, surrounded by the fragments I've spent years avoiding. They don't look as frightening now, painful, yes, but not unbearable. It surprises me, this quiet shift that happens when I stop running, when I stop hiding. The memories lose some of their power, simply because they're no longer locked away in the dark. I imagine gathering them gently, one by one, like fragile pieces of glass. I hold them carefully, not to examine every detail, but to acknowledge them, to say, I see you, I know you've shaped me, but you don't define me anymore. The longer I sit here, the more I sense another presence, steady, patient, unafraid of my mess. It doesn't rush me, it doesn't demand I hurry, it simply stays. And in that staying, I begin to believe something I've doubted for so long. Even the parts of me I've hidden can be loved. Even the wounds I thought were permanent can be touched by healing. I whisper softly, I don't have to erase my past to find peace. I don't have to be perfect to be worthy of love. I can carry scars and still be whole. These words settle deep into me, loosening the grip of shame I've carried for years. And for the first time, I think about tomorrow with quiet hope instead of dread. Healing might not be instant, but it's happening. Slowly, gently, here in the quiet. I let myself step into that imagined room and look around slowly. The air feels heavy, thick, with things I've avoided for too long. Memories are scattered like fragments of glass, sharp, delicate, easy to cut myself on if I move too quickly. For years I've walked past this place in my heart without daring to enter, but tonight I stay. Tonight I breathe and let myself see what's been hidden. The first memory that surfaces is one I thought I'd forgotten. A quiet moment of rejection, small in words but heavy in impact. I didn't realize how deeply it carved into me, how it became the lens through which I've seen myself ever since. I whisper softly, almost afraid to hear my own voice. Heal this. Heal the way I've believed lies about my worth. Because of this, my words tremble, but they're honest, and honesty feels like the first step toward freedom. Another memory rises, not of something done to me, but of something I regret doing. The shame stings sharper here. For years I've carried it in silence, afraid that naming it would confirm my worst fear, that I am unforgivable. But tonight, I dare to name it. I dare to believe forgiveness is possible, even here. I whisper, heal the parts of me that still ache from my own mistakes. Teach me to forgive myself as deeply as you forgive me. There's something freeing about speaking to the hidden parts like this, not demanding they change, but letting them be seen, letting them be loved. For so long, I thought healing meant fixing. Now I'm learning healing begins with presence. Before I let myself sink deeper into this prayer, I pause to remember why I'm here. Not to chase perfection, not to erase every scar, but to learn to love the parts of me I've hidden. The ones I thought were too broken, too messy, too unworthy of care. Every time I return to this prayer, I feel a little more courage rising, a little less fear of what I'll find when I look inside. I think about the person I've been, the one who smiled on the outside while silently unraveling on the inside, the one who carried secrets because speaking them felt too dangerous, the one who thought being okay was safer than being honest. That person kept me alive, but she didn't know how to let me heal. And now I want something more than survival. I want wholeness. I want peace. Tonight I picture opening another door in my heart. Behind it are memories I haven't faced in years, moments that shaped me in ways I didn't realize, moments that still whisper lies about who I am. The shame tells me to close the door again, but love whispers something softer. What you hide can still be healed.